Hi, and welcome to a new edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Vaccine Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, October 1st, and we are joined by our panel of all-star local journalists, Gwyn Lurie, editor-in-chief of the Montecito Journal, Jade Martinez-Pogue of Newshawk, Jun Starkey, staff writer for The Independent, and Josh Molina, widely known podcaster and international man of mystery. Thank you all for being here. Got a lot to cover, a lot of things going on. Jade, where do we stand with the pandemic? Things getting better, things getting worse?
The case rate started to decline from the first, Delta surge a few months ago, but they're still the decline is kind of plateaued. It hasn't really made much, hasn't been going down continuously. It hasn't been going up. Just kind of flat between like high 80 to 100 cases per day about
And
average.
we've passed 500 deaths now.
Yeah, we did. And we continue to see most of the deaths, almost all of them reported recently, are in North County residents. So it continues to like be up there.
And what's our vaccination rate now? Do you know?
I think it's like almost 58 of eligible population fully vaccinated, all 58%.
Are the deaths connected to people who have not been vaccinated mostly?
We don't get that information. I really wish we did. Hospitalizations too. They don't update that on like any sort of basis. Sometimes Dr. Joe Reynoso will give an update to the Board of Supervisors, but it's always very delayed.
Yeah,
data.
That's a key question. That really is an important question.
I wish they would report it, honestly. But
Jade, I know we've all appreciated your reporting on the pandemic throughout, and you've just won a big fellowship to USC Annenberg for health policy things. Congratulations on that. And June, while it's allegedly a health issue, it's really a political issue, as we saw once again at the school board meeting this week, where I guess Laura Capps and Kate Ford in particular were really attacked by anti-vaxxers. Can you fill us in on that?
Yeah, so it was actually a pretty standard meeting. It was just the same crowd from last time to come back and voice their concerns once again about the mandate. I think a lot of them felt like, because last time was a special meeting, that there had been some going behind the backs of the public to pass the mandate. But yeah, there was a lot of personal attacks. I know that Justin Shores accused Kate Ford of selling her soul to the Democratic Party to pass the mandate, or she's gleefully putting shots in people's arms. She's smiling while she puts the shots in everyone's arms. So it's definitely very personal and political for.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic, because Kate Ford has never been endorsed by the Democratic Party, nor does she have much of a connection to it. Josh, you used that quote from Justin Shore too. Why didn't you ask? You had such a great opportunity. Miss Ford, it is alleged that you will burn in hell for eternity because of this mandate. How do you respond?
Well, I do want to note that Kate Ford would not be the first person not endorsed by the Democratic Party who widely embraces the Democratic Party later when they seek other types of office.
I don't think she's doing that. I really don't. And
okay,
I have to tell you, I think
October 1st, 2021, Jerry, we're going to revisit this clip. Okay.
All right, we'll revisit it. But I mean, this anti-vax thing is really scary to me. And there's a number of stories statewide about school board members resigning and saying who needs this. And it just seems like it's so over the top to me. I don't know, June.
Well, the group at the
go ahead.
The group at the school board who is protesting, as June knows, it's a small group, but they're very vocal and they're very active. And the school board is meeting in person, but they're not letting members of the public inside. So if you're watching it on Zoom, you can hear them cheering in the background. So they're very passionate. These people who, I don't want to call them anti-vaxxers, because they're not anti-vaxxers. Some of them, they just don't want the government to force their kids to be vaccinated before going to school. At least that's how some of them are framing it. But The truth of the matter is, okay, these board members need a better communication style, because what happens is, at the end of the day, these parents, they feel strongly about their children. They, whether we agree or disagree, okay, these are their kids and they're going to advocate them. You know, kids bring out the worst and the best part of their parents. So they're going to advocate. And what you continually get after they sort of pour their hearts out in these meetings is a school board that says, thank you, staff. Thank you for doing everything to make this happen. They would go a long way acknowledging the public sentiment before they do what they're going to do. And so that's more of a public relations type thing, but that's why they get so angry. They feel as though they're not heard. And even though their perspective is in the minority, if you're a school board member, you probably should figure out a way to make them feel heard. And I think that's also the frustration.
All right. For the second week in a row, political consultant Josh Molina weighs in with some.
I'm sorry I didn't say what you wanted me to say, Jerry.
No, that's fine. Is anybody still speaking to you at the school board, by the way? I want to ask Gwyn, we're not seeing this at Montecito Union or the people showing up, are we? I mean, is there opposition to, is there a mandate at the schools in Montecito?
Not that I know of yet, although I wouldn't take that to the bank.
Okay.
Have you heard of that, Josh? I don't think there is. I think that you would hear pushback.
You would, yeah. Well, we're
For
going to
sure.
hear it because the governor, just before we started the show, issued an order that all adults need to get the vaccine. Is that right, Jade? All adults who work in school districts, as well as all students 12 and over?
Yeah, so the employees and staff were already required to get the vaccine, I think, or be tested regularly, but now this extends to students as well, which I think is big. I think there's going to be a lot of angry people out there about it. But yeah, it's big.
Yeah. June, could you, putting aside Josh's apologies for the anti-vaxxers, could you, there is a group from Santa Ynez, is there not, that is leading these protests at the school district?
Yeah, sort of. It's like one Central California group, but it has different chapters. It's called Stand Up, and it's they've got a chapter in Santa Barbara. They were the ones that had the protest in July, I think, where they were marching down State Street, and then the group in Santa Ynez was the one advertising the school board meeting on social media.
Yeah.
And then I think for this most recent one, there was a change.org petition that was going around. It has like, I think 1,400 signatures now, that was calling for people to come to this most recent meeting and protest the mandate for staff and also a potential mandate for any students.
Yeah, well, I'm with the school board on this one. All right, let's talk politics a little bit. Gwyn, the Montecito Journal had a very fine debate with all the mayoral candidates, all 6 of them, unfortunately. What was your takeaway from that?
I have to say, overall, with some possible exceptions that we don't need to discuss, I thought that the candidates came really prepared. I thought they were well spoken. You know, I had never met Mark, so it was kind of nice to hear what he had to
Mark
say.
Whitehurst.
Sorry?
Mark Whitehurst.
Yes, Mark Whitehurst. And yeah, I was actually impressed with a lot of the answers. I want to go back to one thing that Josh said a moment ago, and then I completely agree with Josh. I think it's not, I think that it goes beyond the school board. I think most elected bodies, certainly in Santa Barbara, and I think it's not unique to our community, would do so well to acknowledge the points of people that are being made, because people who show up at school board meetings, they all care about their kids. They don't, and they all want what's best for their kids. They just don't all agree on what that means. And I think that just in terms of bringing down the temperature, I think
What
people
would they
just want to feel
acknowledge
heard.
exactly?
What'd you say, Jim?
So
like, what would they acknowledge exactly? Because the issue.
I think
that
they
they're
would
talking about is-
acknowledge that people believe that it's an infringement on their personal liberties to be forced to be vaccinated, or maybe their religious beliefs or other things. I don't believe that. I think everyone should get vaccinated, but I think that it's hard to have a discussion with someone when you're not even acknowledging their point of view. That's all I'm saying.
So if they show up and say, I'm gonna my kid's not getting the smallpox vaccine, you think we ought to acknowledge that and say, you know
I
what?
don't think we
Maybe
should
it's
let
time
them.
for smallpox to make a comeback.
No, I think that kids should get a smallpox vaccine. But I think it's important to acknowledge that these are not always simple questions, that people have legitimate concerns, even if the well-being of the general public outweighs the individual concern. I still think it bodes well for the conversation if you acknowledge people's point of view. That's all.
All
I'm
right,
saying.
well, let me try to pivot back to the mayor's race, because
Okay.
one of the questions you asked was kind of on point about that, when you referred to the city council as a 7-headed Hydra monster. And you could hear the huzzas and cheers all over Santa Barbara when you said that, by the way, at least from
Not from Mayor Murillo.
No, she didn't like it. But I think you were referring to, both the political influence of what Randy Rouse calls out-of-town unions, as well as the lock that the Democratic Party has on it. And, who are they working for down there is really the question. The Roman Empire, Josh, and you'll remember this, collapsed because the bureaucracy became self-serving and only existed to feed the bureaucracy, which is what I think we have going on at City Hall to a certain extent. But what was your take on their response to that question?
I mean, I thought there was one notable objection, which is Mayor Murillo, who pointed out that a Hydra is poisonous. Venomous. And I think she missed the larger point, which is that, we have people who aren't coming together to collaborate. We have a city council that isn't really in a position to build much consensus. There are certainly notable exceptions, but I think that we would all be better off if we had a city council that really worked well together. And one of the candidates, I think it was, James said, look, there are many issues that you can get 4 votes on. Why aren't you looking at what those things are and trying to move forward those pieces of business too? So I stand by that. I don't think we have a particularly collaborative.
No, I thought it was a great provocative question. And for the record, she said it was a venomous creature, but we've made great strides on homelessness, and we do work well together when it comes to making policy. Josh, did you agree with that? And how did you feel she kind of managed, saying the status quo versus things are going to get fixed in the League of Women Voters debate, which I know you.
Yeah, well, I don't agree with how she frames the tone of the council. I think that she's in theater mode, and it's just not true, and it's not believable for anybody who's paying attention or is not being told what to say. So I don't agree with that at all. I think that like I said before, everybody, the school board, the city council would do a lot better in earning people's respect if they stop being so defensive. They can still do whatever they want to do. We know they're going to, but you have to acknowledge that other people have perspectives. No, you don't have to say, to respond to June, okay, don't get the vaccination. That's not what I'm saying.
But that's what they want. That's all they're going to be satisfied with.
Well, we don't know until somebody actually says that this is hard. It's hard for me too. I agree with you. It's really difficult, but I'm going to err on this side because it's the best information I have. If you do little things like that, you might actually over time earn their respect. So that's for the school board. With the city council, it's highly dysfunctional.
I mean, look, I do think that in one thing I will say in defense of certain members of the school board, I know that they receive dozens of emails every day that are so ad hominem and so unfair and so mean spirited that I do think it's very hard to then show up at a meeting
and
and show
threatening.
respect back when you've been shown no respect. So I
Try-
do want to
Gwyn,
say that.
Gwen, try being a journalist for 20 years. I
I've
can't,
tried it.
we get emails, we get calls all the time. You
No, this is
have to
different. This
have a
is
thick
different.
skin, especially if you seek the public eye.
There's a level of evil. I mean, they can't park there. You know, they have
I've
to
never
park
gotten
the
an
cars
email as
far
a
away.
journalist that says I'm going to hell for making a decision. Like I've
Yeah.
never gotten that level of response to anything I've done.
I mean, I have. I've been.
Well,
I
I mean, of course you have.
I think that it's true, Josh. I think when you put yourself out there, you're a bullseye, for certain segments of the population. There's no question about it. I'm just simply saying it's not it's easier said than done when you're constantly being attacked, and sometimes in a way that really could physically threaten you. So, I don't think this is a calm group of people. I just wanted to sort of say that on the other side, because I do know that.
It's totally tribal. It's like, I'm going to take the opposite of whatever you say. Jade, I know you watched Gwyn's debate, the Montecito Journal debate. What was your takeaway as a earnest, thoughtful citizen who's trying to decide who to vote for?
First off, I didn't finish it yet. I'm about halfway through. So,
That's plenty.
but I don't know. I think I think the candidates, I think they're all really trying to, I don't know. I was impressed with the answers. Like, they were well-spoken, well thought about it.
Won the debate? Who do you think won the debate?
I'm not through with it yet, but
I watched the League of Women Voters debate last night, and I wrote a story about it. And it was really a race. It was really a forum and a debate between Randy and Kathy. And the only thing that anyone disagreed on was law enforcement and whether to defund police, or I should say, spend money that goes to police in different ways, or whether to invest. Randy was boosting for the police department, for the POA. Kathy was saying it's time to change how we do law enforcement. So that's one distinct point that they're making. I feel like we're seeing Randy and Deborah Randy and Kathy Murillo being sort of the front runners, and James sort of after that, and then Deborah after that, and then we've got two other candidates who are there, but aren't gaining any other traction. So James was not at the League of Women Voters debate. He was out of town working. He did zoom in, as we know, to the Montecito Journal debate. So who's winning the debate? Kathy's on point. Like, she's got her talking points down. And if you just listen to her and you know nothing about the city, you think, wow, what a spectacular mayor. She's memorized every action city staff has taken, and she's repeating it bullet point by bullet point. Randy's over there talking about how we need to reinvest in sort of the traditional ways City Hall used to do things. So it's really a battle of who do you want to believe? And so, I think that's what's interesting. James doesn't have enough money at this point, I think, to make an impact.
No.
I will say, I think James has been really doing well. I've spoken to him outside of debates, and I think what he has to say, his ideas about, he seems to have solutions, like possible solutions, not just saying, I'm going to change this or we're going to fix this. Like, he has somewhat of a roadmap to get there. But I do think, because he doesn't have the funding and the endorsements that Randy or Kathy have. And so I think that's really hindering him.
Gwyn, who are you going to endorse? We won't tell anybody.
Yeah, I know, Jerry. We've been down this road. I'm not going to tell you who I'm going to endorse.
When is the endorsement coming out? When's the endorsement coming?
Next week. But I will say this. The people who live here and vote do know something about this city. And the people who are running, by and large, with a couple notable exceptions, have a record. We know whether they'll be inspired, whether or not they could bring about the change they brought about. It doesn't matter that someone has memorized statistics. I don't agree that if someone doesn't have money in a city like this, you can't make a difference. I think that, and in fact, I will tell you right now, my opponent when I ran for school board in Montecito, you know, had not a lot of money, but knocked on every door in this community. And she did very well in the election. And I think that, look, it's too bad, in my opinion, that the local Democratic Party has as much power as it does in its endorsement, because it puts so much money behind candidates. And I don't think that, and that's not my commentary on the values that the Democratic Party espouses. That is my commentary on the power that that local party plays, not only in getting people elected, but in what they do after they're elected. And I think it's a huge problem in this community. And frankly, I think some of their endorsements are downright cynical.
Yeah. Hey, June, you're going to moderate the debate, I guess, for the District 4 council race. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And when's that?
October 11th.
So that's a real interesting race, since Barrett Reed has raised more money than God. I think over $200,000 the last time.
I think he's over 3 times what Kristen's made so far.
Yeah. And I'm just curious. We had Josh had this story. Nick had this story about Richard Birdie, one of the big downtown property owners and real estate investors, putting some money down to try to buy St. Mary's to make it a center for the homeless. That's in District 4. Have you heard from either Barrett or Kristen what their take is on that?
No, I haven't heard from them on that yet. Right now, I think they're both very focused on campaigning, and they're not really looking to answer topical questions right now, but that would be interesting to bring up.
Yeah, you should ask and get them out on that. That'd be an interesting follow. So how are you preparing for the debate? What are you going to ask them?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to just get my story out. I think once I have that out, I'll have a more clear idea, but
When's that coming? Next week?
yeah, next week.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I'm thinking of asking them questions about their district as opposed to the rest of the city, because I know that it's a bit of a higher income area than most of Santa Barbara. And I think that on council can bring a lot of tough decisions when you have more wealthier people in your district versus the greater part of Santa Barbara being lower income people.
Yeah. Gwyn, have you interviewed both of them? Or are you going to endorse in the city council races too?
We're doing interviews on Monday and Tuesday of next week of the city council candidates for District 4 and 6.
And that's for purposes of endorsements?
I don't know yet. I mean, the Kristen Barrett race is important to us because they represent Coast Village Road. And the other one is just very interesting.
Yeah. Well, be sure you ask them about that St. Mary's thing. Josh, I was sort of astounded by that. It kind of came out of nowhere.
I think that's been in the works for a long time. I think that is something that Hal Conklin was in. I feel like, is that correct, Josh, that Hal was involved somehow with him?
There have been a couple of proposals going back 2016. They were thinking of using it as a substance abuse recovery site, and that fell through. There were some residents who were objected to it. And yes, this isn't something that popped up. It was something that they were aware it was around when Hal Conklin was alive, and they have been talking about it. And now they're really jumping on it and trying to make it happen. You know, I think Barrett's going to be for it. I think he's going to see it as the private sector that really wants to make something happen is putting themselves out there. I think Kristen's going to be a little more hesitant considering the source of the proposal, but she's going to probably keep an open mind until the right time comes.
Well, and considering, which is a big deal for her, the fire danger. You look at that place, we're up here in the wildland urban interface, not to bring up that old saw, but you're gonna put 200 people up there with one little tiny bridge going in each direction. Not to mention what's going to happen to Schofield Park. I think I don't know how they're going to sell that one.
There's a lot to discuss, but I think the first step is they wanted to lock up the property. Let's figure it out. And that's a big gesture by the business community. City Hall's not going to do that. The Board of Supervisors are not going to do that. So at least they're trying to do something. I would just say, that word on the street is James is probably going to get the independent endorsement. He's probably going to get the Montecito Journal endorsement. Those are going to be huge, significant blows to Kathy Murillo's chances of becoming mayor. I don't think it's enough to boost James into first place, but it probably is enough to boost him into second. And if that's not the case, it's going to take votes away from Kathy Murillo. So, Randy's that'll probably be like it if that happens, because endorse those, the independent endorsement in particular matters. The Journal is working to become more relevant in Santa Barbara. So that endorsement is going to matter. And that's going to be a huge, if that happens, I don't know, but I'm just sort of thinking, who else are they going to endorse in this race?
I'm not confirming nor denying what Josh just said, but
That's a confirmation.
I will say that I will say this. It really bothers me when people say, oh, he can't win. She can't. It's always like, it's a way to get people to not focus on someone. Yeah, I'd vote for him, but he can't win. And actually, if you vote for someone, they can win. And, that whoever it is. But I would.
Well, I would say, Gwyn, obviously anybody can win if you vote for them. But if we look historically, money, message, and organization. If James Joyce is elected mayor, I will come on the show and say, wow, and I'll eat my words. I don't think he can win, not because he's a bad candidate, not because he can't be a wonderful mayor. James is a good guy, okay? I just don't think he's got the firepower on the streets to knock on doors. I don't think he's got the money to get his message out to overtake an incumbent. And I think Randy Rouse has got this incredible name recognition. It's not an indictment on the candidate, right? James would make a really good mayor, but I think maybe take two. Maybe he comes back.
Yes, listen, it's a long road. He's a young guy, but I just think these things sometimes are more interesting than we think.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes don't give people enough credit. But listen, we'll see.
Hey,
Well,
June, did you sit in on the endorsement interviews for the Independent?
Yeah, I did.
Who impressed you in those?
I really like James. We interviewed him more than once, and I think the second time around he was a lot more open and a lot less, giving the political pitch that everyone gives.
How did Kathy do?
Kathy did well. She did her usual thing, but it went well. It wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. Medium.
Yeah, and
That's
Randy?
something that always amazes me about politics is just because someone has a great debate or comes up with a great phrase that makes it into the nomenclature, it's like, it doesn't mean they're going to be any different than they've been in office. So it's not, it's like at the end of the day, I think this is such an important election.
It is.
I really do.
It's hugely important because of the the pandemic and the shutdown and the issues we have over race now, which is really a big deal. And I think, Gwyn, it goes to Kathy is a talented campaigner. Her greatest strength is she's good at campaigning, and she's good at knocking on doors and being happy and friendly, and she's good at memorizing things.
You know what she is,
But
and she's probably a nice person. And
right,
probably,
but that's not what the job is.
No, it's not. And it's when we talk about so many of the things that now we're going to focus on that have been problems, frankly, before the pandemic, and there are lots of problems for this city to deal with, like huge problems that take out of the box, innovative thinking and maybe some fresh eyes.
All right.
I think Gwen's a lot more optimistic than I am about what elected officials can do. The staff run everything. The elected
that's
officials,
part of the problem, isn't it?
We have a weak mayoral system, and let's look at Doss Williams and Laura Capps, right? You can make all the same arguments there against Doss Williams. Why did Doss win? Is he a better candidate? He's got organization and he had more money.
And he had the DCC. Yeah, right, exactly. So he and other endorsements, frankly, that maybe shouldn't have gone his way. I don't know, but
Hello, Nick. Yes.
No, I mean, listen, it is politics are a tricky business, as we all know, and things aren't always as they seem. But I do believe that having a passionate leader makes a difference. It just does. And, you
Well,
know,
Gwyn, let's go back to the Greek root of the definition of politics. We have poly, meaning the many, and ticks, meaning blood-sucking insects. So I think we're going to leave it there for today. And Gwyn Lurie, thank you so much. Jade Martinez-Pogue, Jun Starkey, and Josh Molina. Thanks for watching Newsmakers, and we will see you next week. Stay safe out there. The independent debates coming up, right? This week and the week after. So look for those. We'll have more on that. Thanks, everybody.
thank you.